In today's video, I'm answering your questions from the comment sections of recent videos. So get comfy and let's dive in. Hello, and welcome to the Wool Needles Hands Knitting Podcast. My name is Taylor, and I will be your host. For today's video, what I'd like to do, and I like to do this from time to time, is go back to some of my more recent videos, browse through the comment section, and find some questions that I can answer all in one place here for you. I love being able to do this from my, from the horse's mouth, if you will. I try to get to the comment section to answer questions in there. I think I do a pretty good job of that, but there are some times where I can't get to answer all of them. And even here, I'm not going to be able to answer all of them, but I like to be able to do it where I can answer them in person for you guys. And so that's what we're going to do today. I hope you guys are comfortable, having a great week so far. It's almost Friday, and that's always good news around these parts. All right, let's go ahead and dive in. Okay, the first question's an easy one, and this comes from my most recent video, the Stop Knitting, Let Me Explain video that I just posted before this one. And the question comes from Marianne Perello, and it says, love the hat. What is the pattern? I'd love to knit it. And that was this hat here. This is what I was wearing. This is called the Baggy Hat by Petite Knit. I apologize. You know what? It's one of those days. Wow. Hello, I'm here. It's one of those days today where this is just going to happen. It's going to get dark and it's going to get light. Stormy outside, clouds, sun. Okay, whatever. This is the hat I was wearing called the Baggy Hat by Petite Knit. I will pop the link down below in the description box. You can see a picture of it here or the Ravelry page here. But yeah, this is that hat. I love this hat. However, I don't love the yarn I chose to knit with this or to knit this with. It's a mohair yarn. And it's paired with, oh goodness, I want to say it's, I can't remember the breed of sheep, but it's a little bit more of a rustic fingering weight yarn. And it's nice in the hand, but when I wear it on my forehead, it's kind of itchy. This doesn't matter in terms of the pattern. You can knit this with whatever yarn you want. But for me, I don't wear it as often as I would like because it does tend to be a little bit on the itchy side. But that's what this is. I love the hat. I love the design. It knits up super fast. And yeah. That's it. That's my Baggy Hat by Petite Knit. There you go. Okay, question number 2. This comes from Equitime77 from the same video, Stop Knitting, Let Me Explain. The question is, have you looked into neurodivergency for yourself and your son? Interesting. Somebody would ask that about me. I'm wondering what it would be about me that makes somebody think I might be neurodivergent. No, I'm kidding. Yes, of course. I haven't looked into it. I just happen to live it on a day-to-day basis, knowing full well that I'm a neurodivergent individual. I have a very active imagination, which works in my favor, but sometimes can be very detrimental to my, it can lead to like anxiety and things like that, which I deal with various different strategies that I use. I'm a big proponent of yoga. I do a lot of yoga. And I do a lot of walking and reading and things like that to help manage that overactive imagination and sometimes the byproduct of that. But yeah, I'm very aware of the fact that I personally am neurodivergent. And of all of the labels for things that we have now for different things like that, I'm not a big fan of a lot of these labels that we have for things. For whatever reason, I don't really know why that is, but the neurodivergent label I think is helpful because what I think it does is it allows you to, so when you look at a person like myself who tends to fall into this category, you can either label it as being a disorder, which is one way to look at it, or you can understand that there are just people that are on a spectrum, right? We're all on like a spectrum. My husband is on one part of the spectrum and I'm on the other, and my son Angus, which is who a lot of people were talking about in the previous video and all of that. And so I think neurodivergency is an interesting label because everybody is divergent in some way, unless of course you have these people that are just very even keel. So yeah, it's interesting. So in terms of like looking into it, like doing research to learn more about it, no, not necessarily, but I guess I'm always finding ways to strategize so that I can use it or leverage it to work in my favor. And my son, the same. We're kind of learning that about him as well. These are all very much conversations we're having here as a family. But just because you asked, it's interesting. And I know a lot of us are in similar, there's a lot of us in the knitting community that have similar imaginations and levels of creativity and spontaneity and all of that. And so to answer that question in a real long-winded way, not like officially looked into it, but definitely understand it and acknowledge that both my son and I, because that's who we were speaking about, or my son and myself, do tend to be on the neurodivergent side. So yeah. Okay, next question. Okay, this is also from the same video. This is DK5594. She says, not why I used to come to your podcast. When did you get your degree in neurobiology? I actually replied to this in line. But yeah, I don't have a degree in neurobiology, but I thought the concept or the content of what I was talking about in that video was interesting, and it was a rabbit hole I wanted to go down, research more about, and share it with you. And that's what I did. Okay, this one is from Yarn and Needles DP. This comes from the video. This is a recent comment, but from a video from a while ago, Read and Knit, which is what the thumbnail says. It says, where can I find that dressmaker's mannequin? Is that what you call it? I am considering getting one to shape and fit my sweaters. So this person is asking about Gladys. Those of you that are regulars here know who Gladys is. Gladys, oh, she needs to be cleaned. She's over here these days. This is Gladys. She's a dress form for the purpose of like displaying something. She's not adjustable. You can't adjust her to fit anything. She's just there to kind of display. But they do sell, like on Amazon, ones that you can get in a particular size. But this one is, again, just for displaying sweaters or something, to put something on and get a better idea of how something would hang, I guess. But this is Gladys. I picked her up on Amazon. I will link to one down below. I don't know if this exact one is still available, but there's a lot of similar ones out there. So I'll link to it down below if you're interested. But that's where I got Gladys. She's hollow. This fabric that's on her right here can come off and get washed. And I've been needing to do that. But yeah, so she's not adjustable. She has a stand down here. So she's got like this wooden stand, and then you can take her off up here. Yeah. So yeah, that's that. I want to say she might've been $80. I can't remember US, but yeah, I love her. I love Gladys. She's been around since the podcast. Well, I think she's been around since the podcast started. Maybe not. Maybe she's been around since early Wool Needles Hands podcast for sure, but that's Gladys. That's where I got her, and I will link down below for you. Okay, this one comes from the video We Need to Talk About Yarn Weights, and this is by Hannah Navarro 1544, and it says, are you using a Ravelry app? This is a question I get a lot. When I pop up these pattern pages right here, I am using a Ravelry app. The app I'm using is called, I don't know what I'm pulling my phone up for. I can just show it to you here. It's called Ravit. It is an app. Actually, I would like to know if you have to pay for it. But it is an app that connects a third-party app connected to Ravelry. And in my opinion, from ones that I have seen, it is the best one. Let's see. Okay, so Ravelry, or the Ravit, Ravelry on the Hop, a knitting app for Ravelry.com. It doesn't show me, I already own it or have it, so it doesn't show me if you have to pay for it. I don't know if it's a free app. I am not sponsored by Ravit by any means, but I do have it. So I don't know. I don't know how that works, if you pay once or how that works, but that's what I use. And if you find it and you like it and you think that having access to Ravelry on your mobile device in that format is the way to go, it is, in my opinion, worth it. So, but I don't know how much it is. And I think you pay like once yearly for it, but it is called Ravit. Okay, this one comes from my pretentious knitter video. This is by Candace King Palgett 9947, and it says, oh lordy, I love the sweater you have on. What's the pattern? The sweater I'm wearing is here. You can see me wearing it here. I actually received a lot of questions about this sweater, asking for the pattern. I didn't knit this sweater. This was a gift to me from my sister-in-law. It is one of my favorite sweaters in my wardrobe. It's 100% cotton, and I just absolutely love this sweater. This is it. It is by Madewell, the company Madewell, which is an offshoot of the J. Crew brand. And I love it. It's really hard to see the stitch definition. Well, no, now you can. Isn't that beautiful? You could totally knit a sweater similar to this. Oh, I love it so much. It's heavy. It's very, very hefty because it's all cotton yarn. And the yarn that went into making this, I would say, if I had to guess, is a DK weight yarn verging on a worsted weight, which is it's not a very common weight to see knit or in, like mass market, I don't know what you want to call this, but like off the rack clothing or clothing you can buy in a store. And so I really love it for that, because I think it has that hand knit vibe to it. But yeah, I really love it. I think it's time for it to get a bath. But it is 100% cotton, I believe 100% cotton, which I love that. Yeah, 100% cotton. And you can wash it. And then when I wash it, I dry it on low, but a lot of times I won't even dry it. I'll just lay it out and let it dry naturally, and it keeps its shape. But if you happen, like a sweater like this, any kind of cotton sweater, if you happen to dry it and it shrinks down, just wet it again, like you're blocking it, and then lay it out and it'll come back to its normal shape. But I really love it. I would love to tell you what the item number is, because even though you can't find this in the store anymore, if you go to Poshmark, yeah, here it is. If you go to Poshmark, where you can buy things secondhand, Madewell products, Madewell clothing is found there relatively often, and you might be able to find this sweater. It's such a fantastic one. So it is style number AC799FA19. I'll say if I find it on Poshmark, I'll link down below. I mean, you can't guarantee you're going to find your size, right? But it's a fantastic sweater. It's always good to buy stuff like that secondhand too. But yeah, not a pattern I knit, but one I absolutely adore. If you can get your hands on a 100% cotton sweater, it's gold, really, truly. This one comes from my Why Does Yarn Fiber Matter video, and this is by Olga H6053. It says, how did your hair get that long so quickly? I've received a lot of comments about people kind of like questioning how my hair got so long in such a short period of time. And I love the questions, because I love that people are, I don't know what I love about it. But I mean, yeah, my hair is longer than I think a lot of people who maybe started watching old videos and then kind of binged their way through up to now. It almost seems like it just grew really fast, really in a short period of time. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to answer that question. It does grow really fast. Let's move on to the next question. Okay, this is from that same video about fiber content, and it's from Laura Zembruski 2765. The question is, which of these yarns do not pill? I hate pilling. Now, this was all protein fiber. So I haven't gotten into the plant-based fiber yet. That video is coming, but this was all protein-based fiber. So we're talking wool, alpaca, mohair, things like that. So the question is, which of these yarns do not pill? Honestly, the finer the yarn, the softer the yarn, the more propensity it has for pilling. So if you want a yarn that's not going to pill, you're going to want to look for something that is more than, I would say 20 or more microns in fineness. Now, you're not going to be able to know what that is if they don't put it on the label for you. So what you want is a yarn that has a little bit of a toothiness in the hand. When you feel it, there's a little bit of a toothiness there. If you feel a yarn and it's buttery soft, no toothiness at all, there's a chance it's going to pill. Merino pills, cashmere pills the worst of all. Alpaca does pill, but if you want like a wool that doesn't pill, you're going to look for something that is not merino. Okay, so you want something that is a more rustic yarn, a longer staple length that just feels a little bit toothier in the hand. So of the ones that I listed in that video, I would say that your Blueface Leicester doesn't pill. Your trying to remember the ones, the Shetland won't pill. Icelandic yarn, like Lopi yarn, is not going to pill. And some merinos are pretty resistant to pilling if you can get ones that are less fine than your more fine merinos. But just remember, the softer the yarn feels in the hand, the chances of it pilling are higher. Just keep that in mind. But cashmere is going to pill almost all the time. Okay, so this next one, I don't know if this next one has a question. Oh, well, there's a reply to this one that has a question, and I'm just going to share with you what I found on Google, because it's kind of funny. I don't know. It's just kind of funny. But this says, casted on does really curl my ears, though. What she said was, girl, this is stand-up material. I'm howling and going back for seconds, which I appreciate. This is about my pretentious video. So Christine McCoy, thank you. That's very sweet, and I'm glad you enjoyed that video. But then she said, casted on does really curl my ears, though, when people say casted on as opposed to cast on, okay? Meaning like in past tense. So you cast on to something and then you have cast on to that thing. So in the present and then in the past. That's how you would properly use it. But then there are folks, me, I'm guilty, who will say casted on, much like a person might say texted. I texted someone, when you could say I text someone. So if you've ever heard somebody say I texted someone, or you yourself have said that, in my opinion, it's very similar. But you'll find in what I share with you now, the reason why texted might be more proper than casted is because text in this context is a new word. Okay, we'll get to that in a minute. Somebody goes, though, I've heard other podcasters use this phrase, but I'm not sure why it is wrong. Should it be cast on instead of casted? Just curious, thanks. Well, I'm going to tell you what I found. When you Google, is casted a proper word? I don't know how else to Google this. It says, casted is not a word used in modern English. It is an obsolete adjective that was only used in the early 1600s, primarily in the works of William Shakespeare, which someone could argue that using casted on is really the more pretentious way to use it, because you're really just tapping into your Renaissance roots, I guess. I don't know. But it says further, cast is the correct word to use in modern English. It can be used as a verb to mean to throw something, or as a past tense or past participle. For example, you might cast a fishing lure or cast your vote. Okay. It says casted is an adjective that was formed by adding the suffix ed to the verb cast. However, it is no longer used in modern English. And I just kind of feel like texted is really kind of doing the same thing that casted is doing. But like I said, text, as in the verb to text somebody, is a new word, right? Because we only have just recently started texting people. And so texted is maybe like what casted was in the 1600s, right? Who cares? It doesn't matter. But I know for some people, it grinds their gears to dust when they hear people say casted on. I apologize. I'm human. What can I say? But yeah, that is the breakdown. That's what Google says. Okay, this one is from my why you should do the yarn fibers video. And it's by Brandyala. And the question says, how does Let Lopi stand up? I got a sweater's quantity of it, plus enough for a hat. I'm celebrating a trip to Iceland next year. 50 during the dog days of summer. So 50 degrees Fahrenheit during the dog days of summer. So sweater seemed appropriate. Anyway, I haven't knitted with it, but the skeins feel pretty scratchy, but also delightfully squishy. Like there's a lot of air in the fibers. How's my assessment? Yes, that is a fantastic assessment. They are airy. There's a long staple fiber here. Okay. So when you have an Icelandic wool, we're dealing with a long and hairy staple of fiber. And when that's spun into a yarn, because you have real long staples, you're going, depending on how tight the spin is, but Lopi yarn tends not to be spun really tightly, but there's going to be air in there, giving it a nice squishy texture and also making it incredibly insulating, because those little pockets of air are going to trap heat, and that's going to help warm your body. In terms of how it holds up, because it is a long staple fiber, as you wear the fiber, it's also untreated, so it's natural, not superwashed. As you wear the fiber, those fibers are going to rub together and bind together and only strengthen the more that you wear it. Now, this is on your body. If you were making socks out of Lopi yarn and you didn't have any kind of nylon reinforcement, then they would wear and tear because, of course, you've got a lot of friction against the floor. Okay, so it's a little bit different. But for a sweater made out of Lopi yarn, it's going to stand up really well, and it's going to keep you really warm on those dog days of summer that you'll be spending in Iceland. So you did make a great choice, and your assessment was fantastic. Happy Iceland trip. That's amazing. Okay, I love this one. I never had a chance to answer to this question. And it's from Nancy Esteens, 7643. I apologize if I mispronounced that, from that same fiber content video. It says, love your deep dive and informative podcasts. Questions. In your pictures, it said recycled cashmere. I'm seeing this more and more on the ball bands for various fibers. What does that mean? Is it a good thing? Are the staple lengths shorter? Also, what about other luxury fibers like yak, camel, and possum? How do they compare to those you already talked about? Okay, so yes, recycled cashmere is definitely a thing. In fact, the sweater I'm wearing right now is cashmere. This is from the company Madewell, which is the same company where that blue sweater came from. This is made from recycled cashmere, and it says it on here. The 100% cashmere. Where is it? It said it on the tag, the hang tag that came with this, but it is recycled cashmere. So I want to know a little bit more about recycled cashmere. And let's see what it, let's see what it says. Okay, this is from Mahogany LeBlog, and it says, recycled cashmere, is it really environmentally friendly? Recycling is generally an environmentally friendly option, but in the case of cashmere, it's essential to consider all facets of its environmental impact. First of all, cashmere is a wool, and all 100% wools are biodegradable. Plus, right? It takes around 4 months for a cashmere sweater to be disposed of in a good composting plant, and it also makes an excellent fertilizer. Plus, plus. It's also worth bearing in mind that wools are naturally renewable. The question of recycling therefore arises with less intensity, as wools do not deplete the planet. The question of the cost benefit of recycling cashmere can therefore be asked. This article goes on. I'll link to this article for you. The question of quality, though, which is what this person asked in terms of the pilling and the staple length and all of that, that's a really fantastic question. And I think you kind of have to go into recycled cashmere knowing that what you're making up, or like what you're getting in terms of sustainability, if that's why you're using recycled cashmere, you might be losing something in the quality of the product. Okay, you might be paying a very similar price for the product, but the quality will not be quite as high as if you were buying something that was made of 100% new cashmere. So your recycled cashmere sweater, like the one that I'm wearing now, may not last as long. Now, when I purchased this, I purchased it because I really loved the sweater, and I do really love cashmere. I have not noticed any kind of quality issue, but it pills. It pills like cashmere pills, okay? I don't think it pills any more or any less than it would if it were 100% new cashmere. But it is something to consider. I will link to that article or that blog post, because they also link to other articles that talk about the same thing if you're interested. Okay, this one comes from that same video, and it is from Eva Weeby 7677. It says, which pullover would you say is the best? The Felix pullover or the no frills pullover? That's a great question. I would say, in terms of the one I am more likely to reach for and wear, in more situations, it would be the no frills. I'm just more likely to wear it. If I knew I was going to be deserted on an island somewhere and I had the choice to pick between the Felix and the no frills, I would pick the no frills. But I love them both. Okay, this next one comes from Gumleaf Crochet and Yarn. This was 2 weeks ago, and it's on a video that I titled Tips from the Dyeing Studio Speckles. Now, I used to dye, I still dye yarn. I used to make videos of myself dyeing yarn a while ago, and this is one of those videos from a while ago. And the question was, there's some replies to this. I must have replied to this, but the question was, do you still dye yarn? Yes, I still dye yarn. I own Fiber for the People, which is my hand-dyed yarn business, and you can find it at the website that's always linked down below in the description box. So yes, I do still dye yarn, and I dye it from my studio here at my home. Okay, this question comes from my Knitter's Spicy Hot Takes video from a while ago, but this is a 2-week-old question. It's from Natalie McCullum, and she says, I love the t-shirt sweater you're wearing to make the short sleeve sweater argument. Are you able to direct me to the pattern? Yes. So the pattern that I'm wearing for this sweater that you see right here is actually the Felix pullover by Amy Christophers. I will link to the my pattern page for that sweater down below. And on that pattern page, I share with you what I did to turn that into a relatively cropped short sleeve sweater. And you would like it. You know what I'll also do? Shameless plug. I'll link to my little black tea pattern. It's a pattern by myself or by yours truly, we can say. I'll link to that as well, because it's another one I really like to wear, and it's a similar vibe. So you can decide between the two. No pressure. Okay, this is for my We Need to Talk About Yarn Weights video. This is Wendy Belfry 1110. Her question was, where does sock weight fit in? Quick, concise question, quick, concise answer. Sock weight is fingering weight or 4-ply weight. So if you see sock weight, you're getting the same as you would if you were going to get fingering weight or something listed as 4-ply weight. Okay, this question comes from my knitting update video from a little while ago, about 3 weeks ago. This is Debbie DeGainer, and her question was, quick, hopefully, when you said you knitted a deeper neckline, this wasn't a quick answer, I'm sorry, Debbie. When you said you knitted a deeper neckline for the new Felix sweater, which I love, how is that done? Love your videos. She's referring to my neckline on my Felix sweater here, and when I said I knit a deeper neckline, I just made this wider. Okay, so this is just wider than what is called for in the pattern. And the way that I did that is I just knit more rounds. I just knit more rounds of ribbing before I moved on to my short rows. And then I have a deeper neckline. So when I wear it, it's not real thin. It kind of sits. It's just a deeper, wider neckline. That's kind of what I meant by that. So I just like a nice wide neckline with the Felix pullover, just kind of my preference. And I simply knit more rounds of ribbing. Okay, this comes from the We Need to Talk About Yarn Weights video. This is a great question. It's from Lady Catacorn 2950. It says, thanks for the video. It leaves me with a lot more questions, especially about fiber content. I do not use wool at all. Are you saying that if a pattern recommends a wool yarn, but I use a plant or synthetic fiber, I will have issues with the project? Yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying in that video. And I don't know if it's issues with the project, but you're going to have different results. You're going to have a different, kind of product than the product that's shown in the pattern that is knit with wool yarn, because those two fibers behave differently. Plant-based fibers and protein-based fibers behave differently for the most part. And so if you knit a sweater that is knit in wool and you knit it in cotton, you're going to have a lot of draping differences, a lot of shaping differences and variations, and overall weight is going to be different, which is going to impact both of those things that I mentioned. Also, too, you're going to notice the insulation of the garment, right? It's not going to be as warm. So yes, absolutely, absolutely going to have a different garment in the end. You are going to run into some issues. Oh, and then, you know what, you also mentioned synthetic fibers, but you need to understand the difference between plant-based fibers and protein-based fibers to understand how those two things are going to behave. In terms of the synthetic fibers, if you're using acrylic is going to behave closest to wool of all of the synthetic and plant-based fiber options that you are likely to come across if you're trying to avoid protein fibers. So if you're trying to get to something as similar as wool, acrylic is really your best synthetic option. And then in terms of plant-based fibers, if you can find something that's a blend of nylon and hemp, sometimes you can get close, but the resiliency, meaning how elastic it is not going to be there in comparison to wool. So yeah, there are going to be variations, and you're going to have issues with your project in terms of fit and drape and shape, and also resilience as well. All right, I'm going to end this video with one that's not a question. It's just a comment that I received a lot of on the We Need to Talk About Yarn Weight video, and that is from Carol Tower 1805. For the love of spelling, it's gauge, Gauge. Yeah, you know what? In that video, I misspelled gauge. I don't know how many times. It would be interesting if somebody could go back and check how many times I misspelled the word gauge. Yeah, I'm aware. So when things like that happen in the text that pops up on my screen or on your screen in the video, and I've made a spelling error, sometimes the spelling error will happen in the beginning and then it carries over because maybe I'm copying and pasting. And then in the process of all of it, it just slips my attention if I've seen it. It happens because human, okay? Human. However, it doesn't matter how many times somebody mentions to me in the comment section that the word gauge is misspelled, especially here for the love of spelling, it's gauge, as if I'm there live and in person actively spelling this word out for you. I can't do anything about it when the video is already up. So anytime you notice that a word is misspelled, yep, it happens, because you know what? I'm human, but it's not a whiteboard that I can go and erase and fix it for you. So you need to just let it go. You know, maybe I'm being a little spicy, if you will. But, you know, when you get the same comment, hey, you misspelled gauge. Hey, it's spelled Gauge. For the love of spelling, it's gauge. Gauge, gauge, gauge. You misspelled gauge. It gets a little old, especially when you literally can do nothing about it. But you know what? I love all of you. I love Carol Tower. And I love everybody who takes the time to watch my videos and leave me comments, even if you're going to correct me on my spelling or my out of whack pronunciation. You guys are great, and I appreciate you being here. And please, as always, keep questions coming down in the comment section. I love reading them, and I try to get to them as much as I possibly can. And if I can't, and somebody else can, I encourage them to, because it's a great way to have conversations about the things that we're talking about here. Another way that you can do that also is to head over to the Patreon, because I do after shows for some of my episodes. There's going to be an after show for this episode over on Patreon that you can check out and see a little bit more of what we're doing right here. And maybe it gets a little bit more spicy. Who knows? But you guys are fantastic. Thank you for being here. If you like what you saw or took value from today's video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and definitely subscribe if you'd like to watch more. And I will catch you guys in the next one. In the meantime, happy knitting, happy making, happy whatever it is that you're doing. Take care, be well, and I will see you soon. Bye.